So, what is internal family systems? It was started 30 odd years ago by a man called Richard Schwartz, and Part's work has been in the psychotherapeutic field for a really long time, but he's just sort of brought it together with some fairly interesting concepts. He was working as a marriage therapist, and then in particular with some young women, and he was bringing in the concepts of marriage therapy into his work. And he noticed that people kept talking about, well, a part of me wants to cut, and a part of me wants to eat, and a part of me wants to binge and starve. And using marriage therapy, he kept asking, could that part wait? And could the part that binges speak? And getting to know the internal world like you would in marriage therapy, if you had a group of a family around you. And what he found out that, if all the parts are given space to speak and they can step back, there's a fundamental core self. So, very simply, the concept of IFS is that we all have multiple personalities within us. So inviting you to think that there's lots of you and you within you. Many of these parts are entirely here to protect you, to look after you. It's like your own little army of your little SWAT team, your a group of protectors solely focused on looking after you. And also you may have little inner children who are burdened with vulnerable feelings that you might have exiled when you were little, and they're looking for healing. We get to adulthood and they're sort of pushing at the gates going, heal me, heal me. And so what's just so beautiful in this model is that that's possible. We talk to the protectors. We really get to know two-way relationship with the protectors, and you're putting your one of the main aims is to re-establish yourself as the leader of the system, as the center of the system, having a relationship with your protectors so that eventually you can go and talk with the protector's permission to those little vulnerable inner children and help them. It's like, and do it safely. Do it really safely and carefully. So, there's you. The subject of this talk, it's an absolute fundamental of IFS, that there's you. And who are you? Dick Schwartz loves, I think it's alliteration. So he says there are 8 C's. And the 8 C's he talks about are clarity, compassion, courage, confidence, curiosity, creativity, calmness, and connectedness. I've put some pieces of paper there. Please take them and put them on your fridge. And I think it's Julia Simpson did this in 2010. And it's quite a fun thing to have, like, how much of those qualities are with you at any time. You could photocopy loads and just sort of, where am I on a Monday morning and where am I on a Wednesday evening, and just see. So right now, I've got lots of courage for doing this talk. Sometimes I might find I have buckets of compassion, and other days I might have loads of curiosity. And sometimes I might have calm. But everyone will have different amounts of each one showing up at any particular day. Dick Schwartz also talks about the 5 P's: patience, persistence, perseverance, presence, and playfulness. I like also feeling into words like presence, like warm open-heartedness, like my inner wisdom. Self is like it's like the seat of your consciousness. It's, in Buddhist terms, it's the non-self. When I talk with clients, I invite them to, ask their parts to look at them at the age they are now, with all their competencies, with their overview of all their parts, with their overview of being an adult at the age they are now. So it's like a physical thing at the age you are, but it's also, another way of looking at it is that it's ageless, it's timeless, it's your spiritual core self, which, if it feels all right for you, connects in with others' core selves. So there's this collective self-energy. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So it was Julia Sullivan, 2010. From self, we're looking to start having a relationship with our parts. And as some of you know, I'm really into stick people. And so I doodled these, and then I got a man on Fiverr called Maid Wirrawang who made these up for me. He drew them out. And there's lots of them, and please take them to put on your fridges. But the idea is that here I am, like the sunshine, and my parts, I can see my parts as like clouds. And sometimes you can't see me if I'm cloudy, but then the clouds come away a little bit, and there I am again. I could be like the conductor of my orchestra. I could be, sat round my kitchen table, or I could be with my parts in a board meeting. Mayor of the town, captain of the Starship Enterprise, driver of the bus. I like inviting my parts to a campfire, and I sit round a campfire, and my parts sometimes like marshmallows and toasting marshmallows on fire. So whichever one of those, I don't know if any of those make sense to you, but some of them, those metaphors might sort of engage you a little bit. So self, as opposed to the autonomic nervous system that we're going to talk about in a minute, is innate in all of us, and it's we don't, in IFS, chase self. You invite parts to unblend. You invite parts to give you space so that you can be there to talk with them in a two-part relationship. What we're going to do in a little bit later is the other way round. It's a sort of bottom-up, let's try and find self a little bit more. Let's take our way to self. So, a little bit about the individual parts. I mentioned that there are some protective parts and there are little ones. First of all, there's the proactive ones. We call them managers, and they come and they're looking after you sort of day to day. They're the rules, they're the regulations, they're the ones that sort of are trying to get you sort of through in this world, not rejected, not abandoned, liked. So I don't know if you're into subgroups, but I quite like it. Examples of managers, anyone subgrouping here? Thinking, analysing, sceptical, inner critic, outer critic, judge, blamer, numb, hyper-focus, catastrophising. Those are just some of mine. And then there are parts that have taken on the burdens, like the little inner children. And examples of exiles include abandoned, rejected, worthless, powerless, helpless, shame. Beliefs like I'm a mistake, I'm unseen, I'm unheard, I'm a failure, I'm not good enough, I'm too much. These are things that sort of many of us hold sort of deep down and pretend that we don't feel. And then if those parts sort of come up, because they're always trying to come up, they're always looking for healing, and stuff happens in everyday life, then firefighters turn up. And firefighters are the reactive managers, and they're the unsung heroes of the system. Love my firefighters. Firefighters are things like rage, fog, dissociation, scrolling, booze, drugs, fantasy, suicidal thoughts, distraction. They're the ones that come and they're desperate to try and soothe and calm, and they are entirely focused on trying to protect the exiles, trying to protect the vulnerable feelings from coming out. They actually don't care about people outside at all. They don't care about the relationship. So while the other person might be receiving a stream of something, the firefighter is only concerned about keeping the exiles down, if that makes sense. I'm seeing some nodding, yeah, seeing some nodding, great. So parts take on roles to protect us from these childhood injuries. Something happens, life happens to all of us, when we're little, be it in families and schools and whatever, things happen, and within a few seconds of feeling really vulnerable or feeling hurt, a part will come and start doing something to protect you, and it'll work. And so you'll do it again, and then again, and it'll work for the first 10 times or the first couple of years. But then it's like Mike Elkin calls it a law. I don't know if it's a law, but protectors don't tend to get what they are looking for. They almost inevitably get the opposite. So if I'm cross and or if part of me is cross and then I have a part that takes me out the door, actually underneath that, I'm looking for connection. But this part has taken me out of relationship rather than asking for what I need. But this part is going, this is the only way of dealing with it. So it gets what it doesn't want. And we also have polarities within the system. So the part that likes cream cakes or whatever, and the part that doesn't want you to. And, I invite you to invite one part to one side of the table and the other part to the other side of the table and hear both sides. And then could they both look to me? I'm hearing the arguments from both sides, and I can, maybe we can negotiate and work things out. I'm here now. I'm here at the centre of my system. So what's the point of IFS? I hope you'll have got some of the points so far, but tip-top one is re-establishing you at the centre of your system. You're the adult. Most of these parts are sort of under 20, probably under 10. And so, when my rage part comes out, it's like a 3-year-old. Don't really want that running the system. It's really helpful in some ways, but I don't want that running the system. Don't want my perfectionist to run the system. Don't want my therapist parts to run the system. I want to, have their help, but I want it needs to be me at the centre of my system. 2, forming secure internal attachment. Really, really important. I'm sure all of you will have heard of, attachments theory, and I'm seeing lots of nods. And so attachments form with different people, and you might have a secure attachment with some and an anxious attachment with others. That goes internally too. But what we're looking for over time is a secure internal attachment, me with my parts. Maybe the first time ever I've had a really secure attachment within a relationship. It's really exciting. And so we can liberate the parts from their extreme roles and achieve more balance, harmony, and wholeness. And we can unburden the internal system. And I'm not going to go into today. Next time is cultural, societal, and familial legacy burdens. And we can, work with them. Burdens we've taken on from families and culture. And one of my favourite things, bringing more self-energy into external systems. This is about collective self-energy. This is what we're doing in this room, hopefully, is just feeling that wonderful collective self-energy and taking it out into our communities. This is where the revolution is. So how do we do IFS? We're going to do a little bit of a meditation. What's different about it? You're doing it internally. Normal therapy, it's a bit of eye contact. This is the invitation is to close your eyes or to soften your eyes and to get to know your system, get to know what's in your body, any images, any voices. It's introception rather than extraception. There's lots on the internet about IFS. I've already heard that there's some YouTube watch. We've got a Stroud Buddy Up group. You can have a little practice. There's IFS therapists. There's IFS informed therapists and practitioners too. There are Facebook groups. And I hope you keep coming back here. So I'm going to encourage you to... IFS isn't so... It's really simple in some ways and it's really not in others. And I think we need each other. I really strongly believe this. So, having a therapist or having a buddy or having some lovely, warm, friendly person, even in mind, will just help you. Because otherwise it's quite a lonely route just trying to do this on yourself. I can't do it on my own entirely. I know. Yeah, we need to mirror and validate and bathe in each other's self-energy. So you're closing your eyes, turning attention inward, breathing a little bit slower and deeper. I'm going to talk about breathing in a bit. And how do you notice your parts show up? I'm quite visual. Some people, and I hear my parts. Some people feel their parts much more. There's no real one, it's what's right for you, how you work with them. So you're finding the part in and around your body. You focus on it and you start having a two-way relationship. There are loads of questions I can point you to ask parts, but it's really finding that curiosity from yourself. Like, what do you want to know about this part? What's your mission? What are you doing for me? What are your hopes? What are you hoping to achieve here? What are you worried about? Why are you, who are you protecting me from? What do you not want me to feel? When did you first come in? How long have you been doing this for? How old do you think I am? Most parts think that you're like 6 or like 15, and they don't realise that you're 51, or that I'm 51. The really important question to find self, or to, just to see, is how do I feel towards this part? And if it's one of those wonderful words of compassion or curious or grateful or I feel really clear and calm, it's pretty likely that that's evidence of some self-energy. How amazing. And if you're not, if you're angry with it or judge it, that's great too. That's another part to get to know. Come and join the party. The party. So you're forming a relationship and, inviting polarities to go one side of the table and the other. Get to know one, ask parts to step back so that you can focus on one. And the idea is that it's all about an invitation. It's not about demanding. Like, I don't want you here, it really isn't. It's do you want to be here in this room and listen to this conversation? Do you want to go and play outside? Some parts don't want to listen to conversations, so they might take themselves off, but we're not demanding they go.